Shana Tova. When trouble finds us, where do we find solace? When we are knocked off balance, how do we regain our stride? These are urgent questions, but especially so at this season. Jewish tradition provides 3 sources of solace, 3 gates to enter and to feel peace and connection. The first within our bodies, the second among our neighbors, and the third straight with the divine source, God, whatever you call or don't call the source of comfort. Today we will enter each of these gates and study 3 stories. And I hope that one of these stories actually might stick with you, support you in this year to come. So I invite you to listen for a story that resonates most with your life. The first gate to seek solace, our own body. Every flight attendant reminds us to secure our own oxygen mask before helping others. But we too often ignore this advice here on the ground. We work ourselves to the ground. Back spasms, migraines, strained relationships make us want to hide. We turn to Netflix, drugs, booze, food, all to numb the pain. Each of us has a favorite exit strategy. Our tradition offers us another way. The book of Psalms, 150 potent, visceral, raw, and yet comforting words. Mima'akim karati Yah. From the depths I call out to you, Yah. Hear my voice. From the depths I cry out, from the narrow places in our lives when we are in pain and struggle, rudderless and in doubt, we cry out and ask that our voice be heard from the expanse. Jews read Psalms in times of crisis and grief, as well as great joy. In Psalm 130, from our narrow places, the pain, the disappointments, the brick walls, and the glass ceilings, we call out, not only to release and express, but to ask for comfort, guidance, and support. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav offers the following parable. He tells, there was once a great king who knew that the grain harvest that year was tainted, and that if everyone ate it, there would be madness. What to do? He asks his advisors to not eat the grain, our village will starve. To eat the grain, we will all go mad. After great deliberation, the king and the advisors decided that they would eat from the grain alongside the villagers, tainted as it was, but to keep each other accountable and awake. Amidst the chaos, the king and the advisors each put a mark on their foreheads so that at least when they looked at each other, they would know they were insane. Perhaps it's time to each mark our own foreheads, to remind us to breathe, to slow down. Each morning, I try to notice the moment when I put my foot on the floor. Just that first touch. And at night, when my head rests into the pillow, when do you pause throughout your day? We take a moment now just to be here, to take a breath together, to feel our feet on the ground, our seat in the chair, our spine rooted towards the ground, our crown raising high. This precious body is the vehicle of our soul. There is no upgrade. We only get one. Opening our eyes to the blast of the shofar, we are asked, what's our body plan? What are the marks we will put on our forehead, in our calendars, to keep ourselves awake and sane amidst the chaos? The second gate to Solace, our neighbors, our community. Crisis Text Line is a free support resource available 24/7. Nancy Lublin founded it in 2013. Volunteers each month field 600,000 conversations. Lublin's objective in founding the Crisis Text Line to be where people are, to make it as easy as possible for people who are in pain to get help. When in crisis, people simply text 741 741. A trained volunteer responds promptly. Strangers helping strangers. Who's using this crisis text line? 75% of users are under the age of 25. 10% are under the age of 13. Crisis Text Line is producing the largest mental health database ever to be studied. The data is being shared with health professionals, lawmakers, and schools. The national impact. Each day, there are at least 10 active rescues, resulting in the saving of 10 lives, 10 families who are spared from the death of their loved one. From the modern help crisis line to our second story from Jewish tradition, illustrating the pain of isolation too many of us feel in our world. Once, there was a prince who felt himself to be a turkey. His whole family brought doctors to offer advice and potions. Healers of all types came from all over the land. No one could help. Each day, the prince became increasingly agitated, crawling under the table, shredding his garments, plucking at the floor as if for grain. One day, a neighbor came to the house. She had known the prince since birth. She watched her friend from far away. And then, without saying a word, with deep compassion and empathy, she got under the table and began plucking at the floor alongside him, shredding her garments and flapping her wings. The prince gradually began to slow his movements and look up at his friend. Days went on. The friend guided the prince out from under the table to eat with his hands, to sit at the table, and eventually to rest in his own bed. Who are you in this scenario? The turkey prince, isolated and in a pattern you cannot break, or so far gone that you are considered mad? Or are you reaching out to a friend who won't get out from under the table? Are you one of the family members watching on in horror and sadness, feeling unable or exhausted to help? In Jewish tradition, the 7 days of Shiva, of mourning, end with a ceremony. A friend actually comes to our house, takes our hand, and lifts us up. Together we walk around the block. We are here to lift each other up, physically and emotionally. We can't do life alone, and we are not supposed to. So this year, what's your neighbor plan? Who is the turkey prince? You or someone you know? And what's the next step to break their isolation or yours? The third gate, Jewish tradition opens up for us to find solace with God, source. When we stay focused on our little minds and worries, no matter how urgent they seem, life gets smaller. Conversely, when we go outside, see friends, focus on anything or anyone other than ourselves, our world expands. Try this exercise, if you will. For a moment, allow your mind to turn inward. Consider if there's an issue that's bothering you, a person even in this room with whom you're in struggle or frustrated by. Notice the feelings that arise as you allow your mind to rest on this issue. Now, as if the channel is changed, eyes open, look out somewhere and focus on an object of beauty near you. Look with intrigue at that object or person. Get curious. What's the texture? What's the color, the tone or mood of the object? What or who does it remind you of? Now notice your body in this state of inquiry. And then for a moment, briefly switch between these recent two channels of your mental and physical states. First, inward, your own personal life, an issue, someone, something. And second, something out, near you, physical object. What do you notice as you flip between these stations? Our rabbinic masters compared these two states of consciousness, mochin de katnut, small mind, and mochin de gadlut, expansive mind. To cultivate mochin de gadlut, big mind, is to live out here with others, connected to the world, to get off the bleachers and onto the court. Our tradition guides us to cultivate solace in source or big mind by considering a third parable of instruction. There was once a poet who spent time writing and teaching. When out in the market, it became difficult to maintain that connection, that flow. So she hired someone to accompany her and remind her always of her connection with the larger picture, with source. Eventually, her disciple moved on, and she returned to an ancient practice. Wherever the woman went, she imagined 4 letters on the forehead of everyone she met. A yud, smallest letter, a hey, a vav, and a hey. These 4 letters, yud hey, vav hey, spell out one of God's unpronounceable names. And in this way, she trained to focus out here, to see and truly encounter the other. Big mind, mochim de gadlut, is a powerful place to live. So this year, what's your source plan? What's going to be that reminder or app to support you to live out here with all of us. Last Rosh Hashanah, we considered one of these big questions. We asked, are we our brother or sister's keepers? We focused congregationally on the issue of human trafficking. This year, I'm pleased to say and share that our Social Action Committee responded vigorously. With the leadership of board members Sari Hartman and Dean Abalon, we had multiple gatherings. Hundreds of you actually came out to get educated on trafficking here in San Diego, issues of refugees, what happens at our borders to our children. We marched together in the Pride Parade. We partnered with Hadassah, Jewish Family, American Jewish World Service, UBS Financial Services. We put Beth Israel on the justice map. Our congregation is now known again for curating powerful civic and social conversations, not only on the trafficking issue, but on preventing gun violence, raising trans children, improving voting access, and much more. This year, Beth Israel will host its first Shabbat Tzedek, a Shabbat weekend dedicated to tzedek, to justice, powered by our Social Action Committee. We'll bring in March Rabbi Levi Lauer from Israel to share with us about trafficking in Israel and how we can learn and support those living in the shadows of denigration in our holy land. So I ask you, how will you find solace this year? By attending to your body, your neighbors, or turning straight to God and our world? Is there one of these parables that could support you in your quest? Perhaps it's the parable of the tainted wheat and the mark on your forehead to remember who you are and where you're headed. Perhaps it's the story of that turkey prince, or seeing ourselves as someone who can make a difference in someone else's life, or opening to someone making a difference or contribution in ours. Or perhaps it's shifting our lens, our minds even wider, and seeing the divine in the forehead of those we encounter, starting with ourselves. Which teaching could open up a new paradigm for you, a new way of being, if you took on living with this teaching? What's possible that may not be right now? What relationship, what accomplishment, what peace could open up? You pick. Tainted wheat, the turkey prince, the 4-letter name. I'd love to meet with you this year and hear which of these teachings is seeping in to your life, your home, and your dreams. Blessings to you all, to each of us, for living a year of health, of discovery, and connection. Shana Tova.